Because I know there are a bunch of people that asked me if it was gonna be recorded, so just do that to post it on my channel later. Because streaming times are really awkward. Where did I go? Streaming times are really awkward because I'm EU, right? So for most people, it's like, well, most people in the server are American, so it's like, it's either morning or like middle of the day for them. Okay, let's see. Yeah, what's up, Ethan? So what I wanted to do first is I'm gonna just go on E for a bit, and I'm gonna draw these exact things out. Um, I don't want to get some like extra patterns going, so we can like use those kind of higher time frame patterns to look at a lower time frame. So that's what we're doing first, and a bit of a general market outlook. Let's see. Gonna place these over here for the ABCD. So what I've started doing is I have started just manually drawing my harmonics like this, to kind of give me a more accurate idea of where the PRZ actually is. But if you have questions, like the voice channel has a chat, so I will put them in there, so that way I can see everyone's messages in the same spot. Okay. So that way, for example, now we've drawn a Gardaí, right? I used the X to A leg, I used the B to A leg, I used the B C leg, and I put our B A leg, put that over C, and then I put our highest point to our lowest point. So that's why we can see that, for example, this Gardaí, we know that the X2B was a bit off. And we see that reflected in the PRZ. So these fibs are kind of spread out, right? Instead of just being one spot. So that's why it made sense to be kind of drop lower, drop towards this cluster. So we have that Gardaí drawn. It's gonna lock all of this up. I'm gonna do this a bunch of times for a bunch of harmonics. And just kind of look them up, and hide them. And then at the end, I'm gonna enable all of them, and we're just gonna look at this kind of range over here and see what Eve is up to. So let's see, we had this one here. Even though this kind of got disrespected, I'm still gonna include this one for the reason that we are now like building price action on this level, right? If I were to draw a PRZ somewhere over here, we are still using it. So I am gonna just use this crab as well. And just place it like that. Use B to C, then use the highest point to the lowest point. Just like that. And then we can see one of the reasons. I'm gonna hide this one because this high is too low, right? We can see one of the reasons as to why we didn't actually hold price here, right? You can see that we only had 3 kind of levels over here, and apart from that, it was pretty empty. Like we had 2 slightly lower, we had a bunch over here, but the most dense area was right over here, because we have like 5 very close to each other. And we can also see that, for example, if we were to go up now, that this area over here and this one over here are pretty dense areas. So if we were to go up again, I think we can use these to as an easy resistance. So I'm kind of using, so by drawing all of these manually, I can kind of get more information out of the harmonics. So for example, we only have this crab drawn out right now, right? So we can see that we have so many levels right on this X that it kind of makes sense now why we rejected there. So I'm gonna just gonna group this one as well, and then I'll enable everything. Okay, let's see. Oh, not that one. Okay, let's look at Eve. If we look at Eve in this other range, we have a bunch of levels. The levels that stand out most to me, because I know there are a lot of things on this chart, right? So what to look at on charts like these, because there's a lot of noise on them, is I'm looking for areas with a lot of stuff. So for example, this line over here is a lot more dense than the others, because there are a lot of fibs on the exact same spot. So that kind of makes the color more white to make it more dense, right? So that is what I'm looking at an important level. So this is an important level to me. That is one of the levels I'm looking at on this chart. Then if I zoom out a little, you can see a bunch of levels over here, but they kind of spread out. So as I said, I'm not looking at these individual levels. I'm looking at areas that are very dense. So for example, this one right here has a bunch of fibs very close to each other. We can see that. These are 3 fibs in nearly the exact same spot. So that is also one of the areas I'm looking at. I zoom out a little again. We have a little area right over here. And we have a little area right over here. So these would essentially be my areas of interest. I'll keep them blue to make it a bit more easy to read. But know that these are essentially, I'll pull this one up a little. These are essentially my areas of interest. And then what we can do is we can, I can kind of time frame align this. So we now have our areas of interest. So I'll try to time frame align this to see if we have any harmonics that actually align with these spots. So because on a higher time frame, we drew some harmonics, and we drew all of them out manually. So now we have a bunch of high time frame levels, and if we have a lower time frame harmonic somewhere over there, it's automatically time frame aligned, right? Because we know where our levels are. So for example, I know there is one over here. Let's see, or was it this one? Yeah, it was this one. So we have an X to B 618 at A to C within 0.382 and 886. So that this can be either a Gartley right over here on the 786, a deep Gartley on the 886, or we can pull it up to a crab. We did react to the deep Gartley a few times. That's why we consolidated below, right? But we're currently trading above it, so I'm gonna look for the crab instead. It's gonna be T618, and we can see that that crab ends right above our high time frame level. So that gives me a lot of confidence that this crab is at least going to be respected on the first tap. So this one is probably going to be important. And we probably have a bunch of others as well. So I think we can take one from this peak over here. Where's it a B point? Not really. Not really either. What if I draw it like this? You just use a higher point. Yeah, so I can use this for a 382. Is this going to be an exact 382? Yeah. Yeah, so I use this one. So, because we have a 382, I'm going to look for a bat, which is going to align right over here. So we can see if I'm currently looking at the B to D. Our B to D 3.618 is right over here, inside of the blue zone. And this bat 886 is also in the blue zone. So if we get to this level, I think this is going to be a very good one. So I'm just going to mark this out to remember it. I think this is going to be a pretty good level to short. And we can just short it to the next level, right? And we just did the same for this crab. I think this crab is good as well, but I do like the bat a bit higher more. It's going to mark this out as well. The risk reward on this one is going to be slightly worse. It's still going to be like 4, which is fine. I think this one, the short on the right, that is one I would actually consider taking. And we can use the same level again, right? So for example, we have this high time frame level, and we have a bunch over here as well. This level right here, this looks really good. This one. I'm gonna mark this one as well. So let's see if we actually have like some kind of shark or something over here. That would be amazing. Yeah, so we do. But pull it down to the 113. We also have a shark over here. So that would automatically make this a nice area to long. Okay, so I just wanted to get that out of the way real quick. Just get ETH charted. Because I think in general, looking at the market, I think ETH's gonna be a lot more interesting soon. Because like we're finally getting into the range of that like Gartley to deep Gartley that we've been talking about for a very long time, right? So if I go on ETH, we are finally like getting into range. Like we still need to drop a bit on this one. But we're only like 8% off now. So for example, like ETH BTC and BTC dominance have just been like BTC dominance is really strong, right? And ETH BTC is just weak because ETH just kind of sucks at the moment. It just keeps underperforming. If this hits, like if ETH BTC finally hits this Gartley, I think there's a very good chance that is going to change. Because we have been inside of this Gartley for so long. Like we've been inside of this for like 4 years now. So I think if this finally hits, it's going to get a really good reaction. Especially because it's like, you can see it on every oscillator. And on this time frame, I don't think oscillators are actually tradable. But we can use them as a confluence. Because we can see like the oscillators aren't dropping anymore. They don't care that much anymore. Because people do want alt and they still want ETH. And it is reflected in oscillators, but it's still dumping. Because people just want BTC more. So I think once we touch this level, I think we're gonna get a really good reaction. Because we're kind of just hunting for any kind of significant level. And we just don't have that over here. Because it's only FPGs, right? And those don't matter all that much. So it's like we don't really have any significant levels over here. So we're just hunting for one. Would a BTC pump stronger than ETH potentially drop ETH to a level without ETH having to tank too much? Yeah, absolutely. So you can see these kind of pairing charts the same way you would look at a regular chart. So let's go on BTC to the dollar. Oh, that's actually a pretty clear chart. Didn't expect that. I have everything hidden, that's why. Okay, so let's go on BTC to the dollar. And what we're gonna do is gonna compare this, right? Our first part is gonna be Bitcoin, the second part is gonna be the dollar. If Bitcoin goes up, this chart is gonna go up. If Bitcoin stays the same and the dollar is gonna go down, that also means that Bitcoin is going up on this chart. So what matters here is that Bitcoin is doing better than the dollar. If Bitcoin is just going to stay the same compared to, let's say, compared to the euro, right? For example, we're just going to take the euro and we're going to say, okay, this is just going to stay the same. We're just going to stay on this level. And then all of a sudden the DXY starts nuking. Then BTC USD is still going to go up. So essentially, it works like that for other charts as well, right? So if we go on ETH BTC, this is our first part, like is ETH. So this chart up means that ETH is doing better than BTC. This chart down means ETH is doing worse than BTC. So that can just mean that Bitcoin is just doing really well. And that ETH is just performing less. Which we have seen over the past while, right? Like over the past year or something. Because if we look at this chart, ETH is still doing pretty well. If we just take the start of the bull run to the high we made, that is still 360%. If we put it at our CMP, that is still 174%. That is still like way more than a 2x, right? because we went from 880 to 2400. So ETH is still doing well. It is just doing worse than BTC, and that's what we see in the chart. So yeah, if ETH just stays the same now, and ETH BTC, or what's called MBTC is going to do really well, this chart is also going to hit our level. So it literally just depends on how they perform compared to each other. So we're kind of just waiting for either ETH to kind of nuke down to a ideal level, or for BTC to start outperforming. It's either of those two. And it is the same for BTC dominance, because on BTC dominance, I am still waiting for this chart just to hit 60%. Because this chart is like kind of the same as ETH BTC, right? Because Ethereum is still the highest market cap coin, like altcoin. So BTC dominance is still mostly impacted by Ethereum. So in this case, we can see that reflected in the chart, right? This chart is kind of just waiting for liquidity, waiting for something to happen. And for something like this to happen, we just need to tap a really significant level. And when we're talking about significant levels, well, in my case, I'm going to be talking about harmonics, right? So that is in this case going to be a reciprocal ABCD. So our 1618 extension to our 0.618 retracement right over there. But if we look at it from a different perspective, I don't know if this actually works. I think it does though. Yeah, if we look at it from a different perspective, and let's take our highest point over here to the lowest point in the leg. So essentially just our impulse down. And what we're going to see is that when we look at a volume metric like this, and we just take the impulse down before we started consolidating, we can see that most of our traded volume is in this area. So essentially, if I drag this out, this, ever since the impulse, this has been the most likely area to reject. Because if we ever need volume, then our drag on liquidity, or like wherever we need to find that resistance, is most likely going to be in this area. Because this is simply where most of our liquidity is built up. Because, for example, these areas, well, there's not really anything, right? It kind of just ripped through. And this is the only area where we actually traded. So this is what I actually look at for volume metrics, as opposed to this entire area. I know a lot of people like looking at this area. So for example, if you're looking at support resistance, that makes a lot of sense, right? So you would, for example, say this is a nice SR level, right? Something like that. I personally don't do that for the reason that I want to look at single price legs. So I want to look at the data from our price leg up. I want to look at the data from our price leg down and then up again. Because we had that impulse down and we are now just retracing, right? And the data that's going to matter the most is the untapped data. So all of this data, we've already used this, right? When we went up and went down, well, we used this area to consolidate over here. So this area is already used. And you can kind of do that for every area. So we use that area to form this, etc. So that is why I like only looking at the most recent price leg that we are retracing back into. So I can kind of see, well, where is our recent volume actually going to be? And in this case, it's rather obvious, right? Because we kind of only have candles in this area. Like the others are just straight candles down. But this works for nearly everything. So if I go on BTC, for example, to showcase a recent example of that, is, let's say we're looking at this area, right? And I did explain this in chat briefly. But I'll explain it again because this is easier to see when I'm visually doing it. Like the level for EVT, concerned about capitulating my alt. Yeah, so what I want to say to that is I'll just okay, I'll do the volume profiles after this, right? And I'll show you something. Let's say you like Well, let's say like say. Easy point. Let's say like say. And you are looking at say. And I'm just gonna replay this, okay? I'm just gonna replay this and I look at the daily. So let's say you're looking at say like this. I bought say over here, like partially. I had quite a good amount from over here because Ponzi was shilling it, right? And back then I thought that was really good. Well, made a good profit, was a good purchase. But I bought say over here. Why? Because it was a good area to buy. So we had a nice little order block over there. If I take a volume profile from this area, I don't know if that's not going to work on the replay. What's it called? We are still in an uptrend over here. So it would make sense for us to make a higher low, right? And then we would, what's it called? I also had easy invalidation. Because if we now drop below and retest this area, I can just say, hey, I guess the trade didn't work out, then I just cut over there and minimize losses. So even though this play obviously didn't work out, and it ended up dropping, you had a decently good exit right over there. So in the end, this purchase, I bought it on like the daily close, right, on this close. In the end, I got out for like 4% loss-ish. I saw it a bit late, so it was like 4 to 5% loss. Do I think that was a bad purchase because I made a loss? No, absolutely not. I think this was a really good play. Realistically speaking, this is a good level to buy. You have easy invalidation. And the risk to reward is really good because you are still in an uptrend, so the logical target would be this high. So that would be like 66% opposed to 4% risk. That is really good. Where am I going with that? Well, let's look at a chart right now. It's gonna exit this mode. Let's look at this chart, but then on a higher time frame. Let's not use the daily, but the weekly. Let's look at it like this, okay? Let's say this is our high. This is a rather new coin, but let's say this is our high, right? This was our high. This is our low. This is our high. Because we have identified that we are on an uptrend, right? Because we have our high, we have our low. We have now made a higher high. Logically speaking, we are making a higher low on the weekly time frame. It would make more sense for us to put in a low over here than it would to put in a low over here. Like, that's obviously in the negatives, but like below this line. So that is why right now, even if we do end up going lower, like let's say we go over here into this box, I would just buy more because it just makes sense to put in a higher low over here instead of actually like dropping below. And that is why I also, on my actual say chart, that's why I went on XC, I just have a buy box there. Because if we get into that area, I just want to buy more. And then the actual invalidation is just going to be a loss of this level. Say is actually performing rather well at the moment, so it is pretty high up compared to that level. So we are down like 60% away from that. But there are a lot of coins that are like very close to that level, right? So can it go lower? Yes, but your invalidation is really close. So you can kind of really manage your risk here. So for example, ARB. Well, what is your invalidation? Your invalidation right now is just dropping below this. So if you like Arbitrum, well, what is your risk? Your risk is going to be, you're not going to get this exit, right? That is unrealistic because you're going to look for a retest on a higher time frame. So your actual risk is probably going to be like 10%. And what is your reward? Well, targeting the next high, that's 360%. Even just targeting this high over here, that's 130%. So I am not too worried about capitulating. I will get out of my orders if we get this retest, right? I have some Arbitrum, and if we get this retest, I will get out. It's that simple. Because in the end, you need to risk something to make something. So taking a risk like this is just worth it. You're taking a 4% for 130%. Those are really good odds. So that's it like for capitulation, right? And you don't even have to buy everything. So for example, for ARP, I mentioned when I bought that I have 2 DCA spots left. So we have, for example, weekly order block here, right? If we end up doing this, I will also buy more. Because I have 2 DCA spots left into this bag, and I will just add them on strength. Because this is still not an area where I would actually sell. Like, it's still really cheap. And same thing over here. If you then do this, I will also buy more. And then this is like where I start selling, right? But when we start seeing like really big candles, like really impulse and everyone's talking about ARP, that's when I start selling. So I'm not too worried about capitulation for the single reason that it is just in general a pretty good area to buy. So as long as you're not like fully allocated and have some room left, it is kind of easy to buy here. And otherwise, even if you're fully allocated, right, the invalidation is clear. If you do this, you cut. So that's why. Then for BTC, the example I wanted to show is that answers your question, right? Yeah. If you have any more, just put them in chat. I'll take some time to answer. So for BTC, or like for the volume profiles, what I wanted to show is this is essentially how I use volume profiles. So I can show it on the recent example that we took. I'm going to show it on this one first. So let's say you are in a long somewhere over here. We were not, but let's say you are. And you want to know, where do I take profit? Well, your logical target is going to be this wick. That is going to be one of your targets, right? That is like the first target you probably think about. What I do a lot nowadays is what I would do. I would look at this impulse candle that brought us there, right? So I'm going to take the high from that impulse and then the low from that impulse. And what you will see, or the index chart is different volume, but what you will see is that we can, okay, this actually kind of messes up the example. I'm going to go on the Binance chart. For the record, I also use Binance for for my charts. Nope, just like that. So I'm gonna do the same thing again, right? I'm gonna take the high of the impulse move to the low of the impulse move. For volume metrics, by the way, I think the index is fine. My most used charts for every volume metric is always going to be Binance. For spot, sometimes Bybit, but Binance is the best. Or like the most reliable in my opinion. The only exchange that I like truly exclude are things like Qcoin or like Gate.io that no one uses. Because like you're not gonna have reliable volume data on those. But back to the story. So let's say you are long somewhere in this area and you look for TPs. Well, we can look at this. We can take this volume data from our impulse down. And what we see is that we have a bunch of high volume nodes and we have our interest points. So I'm going to mark our VAH, value area high. I'm going to mark our point of control, so the POC. I'm going to mark the VAL. What can we see from this? We can see a few things. One, we know that from our impulse down, if we retrace into it, we have these 3 points as very important levels. So I would likely TP the POC, TP the VAH, and if I were in a long from lower, I would TP VAL, right? That is one thing. You get some easy TPs from this. And you can also see that it worked this time. I'm going to do the same thing on our current price leg to show it, right? Because I like recent examples, but it's kind of a textbook one. So we can see that we rejected the POC from our retracement. And if I compare that to like the actual volume profile most people would take, you're going to see that POC from the range is all the way up here. We didn't even touch that. So that is why I use the volume profiles from like our impulse leg or impulse down in this case, rather than that from the entire range. What else can we see from it? Well, let's say you are not along right over here. Because this was the carry trade drop, right? You saw that massive candle and you didn't want to buy. Understandable. I don't think anyone wants to buy, because this is not even like, this looks like 2 12-hour candles. This is literally just 4 hours or something. No one wants to buy like 20% 4-hour candle. So let's say you didn't, and now we are kind of climbing back up, and you're wondering if you should buy. Well, by taking, I don't know, wait, it's not snap to that. Well, by taking this volume profile, you now have a very easy level to reclaim. So you can see that we have a bunch of volume data over here, which is also where a VAL formed. And then we kind of have nothing over here, a little bit over here, but this is where the actual volume starts. So you can also see by looking at that the moment we kind of reclaim these volume nodes, so this area, the moment we reclaim that, we have a pretty big area to grow. Because the moment we reclaim that, and I'll take it from the first like kind of FEG-esque thing, it's like 9% to the first next high volume node, right? So we can look for a position on a reclaim of that. You can either just limit order like VAL, right? Or just look for something else. So let's go on a 4-hour. So look at this, right? The moment we like kind of tap this level, like we tap the VAL here, and then we close above, we can just kind of look for this position. What? Oh yeah. So that is essentially one of the things I use the volume profile for. And that is one of the reasons, like, these high volume nodes are the things I mostly look at. And then obviously just the POC is one line in general. So that is mostly what I look at for these. And I think this is a very good confluence if you combine it with other things. So for example, in this case, if we take just a fib from this, right? I'm just gonna take a range fib. What's it called? I think it was this one, yeah. If we just take a range fib just like this, you're gonna see that it also aligned with the 1272 and the 1314 pocket. So this was a really good area to short. We can kind of see that the same thing happened again, right? But a bit less clean. On that same 1272 pocket. So to use more examples, I'm just gonna do the same thing for the different ones, right? So in this case, I use this one on the chart. I used our leg down to our impulse over here. And why did I not include all of this? I didn't include all of this for the reason that we consolidated really long here, and we took out most liquidity on this candle. So this candle right over here took out essentially everything on the left here. So I would have to take this volume pool and essentially this volume pool, because this data has already been used, right? Because this candle took that out. These highs and everything have already been taken out by this. So that is why I'm pulling it over here instead of just taking the entire move. So what can we see? Well, our POC over here ended up forming a good SR level. If we go on a lower time frame there, we can see that this ended up being our mid-range. This ended up essentially being a range low right over here. Or just place the line to make it a bit more clear. You can see that we just used it as support over here a few times. Deviated below, and we dropped. And then we can do the same thing from this original leg that we retraced into, and we can see that, again, value area low was the level we bounced off of, and the POC was our first rejection. So that is like one thing I wanted to give away for the volume profiles, because I think this is like a great way of using them. So as also I can just remove this. Or actually I'll just put it in chat first. It's like that. Do note, if you change time frames, you have to also replace the volume profile. So for example, if I place this one on the 1 day, we're just gonna place it away first and then place it back. If I place this one on the 1 day, it is not going to be entirely accurate, usually. Okay, this time it works. Sometimes it's not entirely accurate, and then you just have to replace it on a lower time frame to make it fully accurate. So I personally just usually stick to the 6 hour for that. Yeah. That is actually funny to see, like, the moment we talk about it. That it's like kind of retesting that mid-range from these two candles. Okay, let's see. So the thing I wanted to show was what am I looking at for rejection right now. We have already passed POC. I am currently looking at us to, what's it called? I wanted us to kind of retest this. But we have already, like, we are currently below VAH from that move. So I am looking for us to reclaim this to, like, keep my short active, right? I want us to start reclaiming this. Or alternatively, if we get another retest like this, I might short over here. I am still looking at the same range as before. Oh, I copied it. So I'm still looking at this range right over here. If we close a single daily candle above mid-range right over here, that is my invalidation for shorts. So essentially how I've been using this range like over and over again is every time we touch the level on the daily, I count this as a touch because it's like what, it's like $2 off or something. So every time we touch the daily or the level on the daily and then close above, so this one is going to be hard to see, but this one close above. So every time we touch the level and close outside of it, I'm saying above, like over here it's obviously below, right? That is kind of my thesis for higher. So if we start closing like candles over here, I'm just going to get out of my shorts. Because that would mean that I think we're going to go high. This one was kind of just was a deviation. So I mentioned it in chat as well, but we know this was a deviation for the reason that we rejected that 1272. And 1272 is really good for finding deviations, right? So we know we deviated here, but essentially one of the main reasons why we went into this long over here was because we had such an important level there. And then when we closed above, we knew, okay, now we're kind of safe to go higher. And we've almost reached that target now, so we're almost back at mid-range. So essentially, I'm just looking for a reaction at mid-range here, or on that VAH we had over here. And that is going to be like my either reason to short, or if we close above, my validation for shorts. And if we close above, I'm just going to look for more longs. And preferably on a retest, right? So for example, I don't want to long this close because you're already at, like, you're already at mid-range. Like your RR on one candle would be 1.9. So I wouldn't really look too long over here. So if we long, I mean, if we close like somewhere over here, it's a bit iffy. We will preferably close slightly above, and that's when I'm going to look for more positions to add. And that is most of like what I'm still looking at for BTC. Like on a lower time frame, we have a bunch of stuff, right? I still have a short active like on a limit order. That is because of the reciprocal ABCD we have over there. Let's see. It's mostly because of this one, right? So we had a essentially a 1-for-1 extension right over here. And we went to the 0.7, or what's it called? The ABCD alignment for that is going to be a 0.707. So I am expecting us to reject over here, but it looks like we are getting front ran by the golden pocket. Should have 618 on here. Yeah, it looks like the golden pocket is kind of front running us. I do still think it's possible though. Like we still have the kind of wick up structure going on, right? So I think we can still easily tap that 707. That's why I'm still looking for this level. And if you look at the chart I shared for the short, you will also see that I have a soft stop as well, if we actually close the daily above that. Then apart from that, I am looking at a bunch of coins. Let's see, I'll post it in chat. This one in chat first, and then we can look at some actual coins. Because I've been kind of just been talking about the market and we charted ETH before. But let's start looking at some coins. So what I'm looking at currently is I wanted to look at Ordi because Ordi looks really solid. Ordi is leading up to like a pretty good level right now. So we have, as you can see, it's like pure chaos, right? We have a lot of harmonics in the same spot here. And by drawing them out manually, we can see that we have a lot of fib levels right over here. So I'm still looking at this, even though we got front ran slightly. I'm still looking at that short. And for longs, I was actually, I don't think I've shared this one yet. I was looking at Pepe for possible longs. So, what's it called? I'll just make this one a bit more clear first. Essentially, what we have is we have two really nice harmonics. One of them being this bullish bat. If we draw this bullish bat out, we can get a bunch of fib levels, right? Out of these levels, we can see that this one has been the most confluent. This is what we bounce off of, especially these lower three, because they're very close to each other. If you then zoom in on that, we can see that two of these levels are right over here. They're pretty close to each other, and they are in the POC from our leg up to our leg down. So from our impulse up. Yeah, see, Ethan. So because we have two fibs right over here inside of that POC from our impulse up, and then we also have two fibs lower right over here next to like a VAL from our leg up, I am looking for either a reaction on this level, and I will put my stops below whatever we get on the reaction. So what I'm expecting is that we kind of just drop into that, and then I want to see us react to this and then close the candle above. And then I would likely just CMP long it and put my stops below that wick. I don't want to limit order it for the reason that we can easily like kind of take out these wicks over here, because everyone that longed this candle like on the flip of POC or whatever confluence they may have had has put their stop loss over here, right? So I don't want to limit order this. So I'm gonna wait for a reaction and then enter on that. And then we can just target higher levels. So for example, this fib level over here or the cluster over here. And just repeat along the way. And then we have a bunch of other confluences as well, right? So for example, this crab I had over here, if we draw those fibs manually and then zoom in again, we can see that we have even more fibs in the same spot, right? So the same levels that we got from that bat, we are also getting them from that crab. So that kind of just adds to the confluence. So that is the main reason why I'm interested in Pepe at these levels. Because I think we should get a good reaction. We can just long that reaction. It's clear validation. It's a good level volume-wise, so the risk reward is really good as well. So that's why I'm looking at it. especially since we are so time frame aligned, right? Like we have a rather high time frame bat right over there. So we should technically, like this bat's targets are quite a bit higher. This bat is targeting the 0.382 as a first TP, right? So that would be very good risk to reward on our plays if we can actually run it up. Most likely we won't be able to, but let's say the market starts heating up again, BTC closes above mid-range, etc. We can actually start targeting this. And that is mainly what I'm going to be looking at for most coins. I'm going to be looking for these kinds of entries with high targets. And I'm just gonna use BTC as a confluence to see if we can actually run it up. Because if BTC starts showing strength here, then we can run our altcoins up pretty high. And we still have really good levels to get like a validation on. Because the market, especially for altcoins, has been pretty slow, right? Like this is a meme coin we're looking at, and these are 10% moves, more or less. So this is a moment where we can get positions with rather tight stop losses. So most likely our stop loss is going to be somewhere like this, right? We can get positions in with rather tight stop losses, so like a 2.6%, or even if we take it all the way to the bottom, right? Like a 6% stop loss. We can get those kind of positions while the market is very close to like expanding. Like if we start actually flipping that mid-range, or I'll show it on this chart, right? Because I have a full chart here. Once we start actually like flipping our mid-range, when we start closing above, we can target a lot higher on BTC, right? We can target range highs. And that means if we have positions with good stop losses, then we can get some really good RR in. So that's why I'm gonna like keep trying to play these positions. Try and get a reaction in, and just get a stop loss in based on like the levels we have over here before we actually start expanding. Because I think the market is close to it. Like I'm not sure if it's gonna expand or not, but we are close to having some triggers. If the triggers happen, well, we just let the market play its thing. If they don't happen, we just short it back down. So I'm mostly going to be looking at positions like these. Okay, that is mostly what I wanted to say. We also have some USDT dominance action going on. It's actually really good. I charted this yesterday because I gave a class yesterday. One of my levels, but like one of my triggers was if we actually like broke below this fan, then retested, and then dropped below. We're kind of doing that, so this is a really good sign actually. Tapped it to the dot. That is beautiful. If we close this candle like this, or even a bit lower, that's a really good sign. Because this is obviously inversely correlated to the crypto market, right? USDT dominance and BTC are kind of the opposite. So if this chart is going to go down, our crypto is going to go up. So see something like this really good. Okay. Are there any coins you guys want to look at? Otherwise, I have a few in mind. I wanted to look at, for example, Rose. I think Rose is in a really good spot. I haven't looked at that in a while. Banry is really interesting at the moment. And I'm looking at Pendle. So if you have any coins on mid, I'll just put them in chat and I'll look at them later. And then we can start looking at this first. Because I wanted to show you guys Rose, and I haven't found the entry yet. If I had an entry, I would have absolutely shared it. But I think Rose is in a really good spot. I'll remove most of the noise here to make it a bit easier to read. So, first of all, on Rose, we have a very easy fan we control, right? So, just drew this one by taking the bear market low to the like a kind of mid-cycle high, and we are currently reclaiming this fan. So we front ran the 941. This is my front run level of 1. So if we touch this level rechecked, I don't think we see 1. But we front ran that level. And we are now trying to reclaim this 886 on the fan. So if we start seeing a reclaim like this, I think that is a pretty good level to add. For the reason that Rose is like a kind of combination between, it is a privacy coin, right? But it is very heavily ETH based. And it is really trying to market AI. So we can kind of put it at a halfway point between like ETH, AI, and privacy coins. So it's like Rose is potentially positioned to be in a pretty good spot, but is also currently just positioned to be absolutely down horrendous. Because ETH is underperforming, AI had a really rough time and is recently starting to pick back up, and privacy coins just completely dead in general. So that is like one of the major reasons, or those are the major reasons why Rose is so low. But if you then look at the harmonics on the chart, it's in a pretty good spot. We have, what's it called? We have essentially touched this 886. We stopped at the 871. I count that as a touch because it's just very slightly above it. We completed a 141 over here, so we have a really nice shark over here. We can confirm that by just enabling all of these levels, and we can see that we kind of just, what's it called? We're just front running this really important level by like slightly because there's just a good amount of demand for it. We're showing a reaction up here, so I think we can come down for that retest. But on a higher time frame, this chart just looks really good. Like we have almost fully retraced our like mid-cycle push. Our validation is very clear. So if we decide to buy up here, our validation is just a retest of this. Or if we get to this level again, our validation is just going to be this, right? It's a retest of that. So we have pretty clear validation. We have a narrative like building for us. We can hop on the ETH narrative. We can hop on the AI narrative if we want. I don't think privacy is ever going to get a narrative again, but we can hop on both of those. And it's just in general in a pretty good spot RR-wise. Because on what's it called, on like a daily time frame or slightly higher, like if I go on the 6 day, we're still kind of just in good market structure, right? This was your downtrend. It's your first higher low, higher high. So we're like he's forming a higher low as well, which you can also see by the reaction. So in general, I think Rose looks really good. Another one that kind of fits that Ethereum narrative that we're already in actually was ENS. ENS is actually like unique in a way where this is like honestly basically the only altcoin that is like still in a daily uptrend. Because I don't consider this, I think this is just kind of noise, right? But even then, we had lows and highs after that. So I just think this is a really nice uptrend still. And on the way down, we just form new harmonics as well. So if we go on our, I think it's this one. Yeah, if we go on this chart, we can just see like we are kind of on a higher time frame, like on a daily time frame. It kind of just looks really good. It is one of the only altcoins that is actually still on an uptrend. So I think this one's going to perform really well. Because I've been mostly trying to look for coins that are going to perform well. Because they are still solid coins, right? But I just down because people either forgot the narrative or the narrative is down, right? So Ethereum coins make a lot of sense considering the ETH chart that we talked about earlier. Like considering this chart, considering how close we're getting, I want to get an early entry on those ETH coins. So that's why I'm looking at coins like these. That's why I'm looking at ENS, looking at Rose. I even looked at LDO the other day. I think LDO, it's kind of fine if we get a bit lower. So LDO on a higher time frame looks like this. And we have some pretty good PRZs down here. So I've mostly just been looking at these kind of ETH coins and AI coins to kind of get an entry on those again now that the narrative is still really down. So we have an entry on FET already, but I still want to get an entry on... I want to get a good entry on Render, for example, and I want to get a good one on Vanry. So that's why I'm just looking at these kind of coins. Because for example, Render, right? I think if I had like this, I still got a good chart. Yeah. So if they renamed to Render, right? Oh, Binance actually changed it. Nice. So I think it's Coinbase then. Yeah. So that's why I usually I previously charted this on Coinbase. So that's why. But if you yeah, some charts will have the old data, some will have the new since they renamed. So that's what I wanted to look at. So for example, Render. We all know how good Render looked up here, right? And Render is one of the AI coins that actually has a use case because it has to do with like GPU mining or something like that. Or like processing power for AI or whatever it is. This is one of the coins that has like to some extent a good use case. And we know that because Render performed really well. Like Render, just look at that. That's 5,000% from the lows. So the coin might be down right now, but most of it is just because of out of market confluence, right? This is still the same coin as it was up here. It might not be at like $12 anymore, it's not at 5, right? But it's still the same coin. And when it starts going up again, people are still gonna like shout the same things. They're still gonna say that Render is gonna go so much higher. And I have a point, but when I start doing that, I want to start selling. Because we all know when that starts actually happening, that's when the coin is probably gonna dump after a while. So I just look at a higher time frame. I'm like, well, let's go back on the weekly first. Well, what do we see? Well, we have an obvious M structure. We have a very obvious M, so I literally just magnet it to the price legs. I'd have to change this one to the 786, right? For D, this is allowed because you're forming a reversal zone and it's about the reaction. So you can see that we have that X to be 618. We have that A to C within the 382 and the 886. Then our BD is a 141. And our X to D, we can put it at 786. We have reached the 786. The other level would be the 886, which would be a really good level as well. But that's way lower, right? So we have reached that 786. So we have completed a very high time frame Gartley. And not only is this a very high time frame Gartley, this is also a very good like supply and demand zone. Because you can see right over here how often we've used this level. And this was also our consolidation level right over here. Why, in my opinion, did we go towards this level? That is because of this thing. We had a lot of untapped wicks over here. We didn't actually take any of these lows out before our move up, right? So everyone that longed the way up has put their stop losses there, and we have kind of just taken these out. That is also why this last wick is so violent, right? Because we had a wick here, we built on top of that wick. So everyone that kind of longed right over here would have put their stop losses right there. So that's why we kind of just took that low out. All of these stop losses are gone. And that's why this wick is so violent. That's why we just went through, even though we obviously didn't accept it. Like we closed way above, so we didn't even accept near this area. So that gives me the impression that we now don't really have anything to hunt for anymore. Because we kind of took out most of the liquidity over here, and we can see that by how impulsive this candle was. So that's why I think, for example, this is on a macro level, this is a pretty good level to get into. So I am still looking at Render. And these are gonna just be the Gartley targets, right? For the Gartley, there's gonna be the TP1. It's gonna change that to a TP marker. It's gonna be a TP1, and this 618 is essentially at this level, at these wicks, so I'm just going to snap it to the lowest wick instead. So that's going to be our T2. And for added, the like highest technical target you can get out of harmonics, and people don't usually draw this, and I don't know why, is we know that harmonics consists of an ABCD alongside the usual X to D retracement. So we can kind of just draw that ABCD as a potential target, right? We have our A, we have our B, we also have our C. We know this is an 828. That is not a level on its own, but we know that we rejected the Gardley 786. So we can kind of use that to form the lightning pattern that ABCDs are based on. So I'm just going to take this price lag, or price lag up, and I'm going to put that over C. I'm just going to take that as a final technical target. So that is essentially my final technical target. So that is why I want to look at coins like these, is because, well, you have with this liquidity, right? You took out a lot of like early longers, let's say. You formed macro harmonics. You are at an important area. If I just take these wicks, because this used to be demand, right? We are back at that demand zone that we used to supply over here. We are back there, and we are currently flipping it to support with targets that are quite a bit higher. Like our first technical target, I'll take it from CMP, right? Our first technical target is 40%. Second, 86%. Third, 200%. So that's why I want to look at these again. Like, we have entries on a lot of them, but we can still get like more plays in, right? Coins are at very good levels, so we can get more plays in. Why is LTC the only green coin in my list? And it's up by 2% as well. I like Cube and Pive for Sorgstar. Yeah, I think Pive's in this that same boat again as well. So I'll post this one in chat and I'll look at Pive. Pive is in the same boat again as well. I don't know why I keep saying again. So Pive is, if we take it from this, Pive from the listing wick on OKX had a perfect 618 bounce. This A to C is a bit sketchy, but I deem it valid because I've drawn this PRZ out manually, and the PRZ looks really good. So I'm just going to take this 786, put a line there. And that is going to be our level to flip. I could also just do it like this, right? I'll make it a bit more exact. Just gonna disable these, make this one white so it's easier to see. So if we take this Gardley, our like X divided by A level, so our D point, this is our most important level to flip right now. And you can see how many times we've also used that as support and resistance, right? So essentially for Pive, I want us to actually start, I don't know why it's lagging. I want us to actually start building above that 786. Oh, yeah. This is the most important level I'm looking at for Pive. And if we start flipping this to support, like if we start going above this and then we start consolidating on it, that's why I'm gonna look to get into Pive. Because I still think Pive needs to show strength before I get into it. But it is a really good token to get into. Like, this coin runs really hard. And we haven't actually tapped any of these highs. Like, all of this is just untapped. If I take that volume profile to our low, it's called, the moment you kind of break out of this area, you have so much room to go up. Like our POC, 50% up. PAH, 75% up. After that, you don't even have any volume. So you're going to look at like 200, 300% moves. So I think Pive, if we start flipping this to support, I think it's going to be really good. Okay, say. I can look at say, for sure. Let's see, I think I have this chart, it's like a bit full. Yeah, it should be fine though. Just hide these real quick, just so long that we're in. We actually, like, we slightly front ran that. That's pretty sad. I am just gonna hide all of this. And we can look at say. So for say, I can show you my macro chart as well. My macro chart's over here. Essentially, just a quick TLDR. I am looking for higher. Like, I'm looking for a lot higher. I'm looking for at least this, but most likely just for the 382 over here and the 618 over here. I think say is like a perfect example of a coin that is gonna do really well. Like, you had a really impulsive wave up, and we are just like retracing that wave. That's actually all this is, because we went up and we just left so much behind. Like, we didn't test any of this, right? For example, this entire price leg, this one, has just not been tested, and we just came back and we're just testing all of that. And now that we're actually testing it, that is a really good level to get into, because this on a higher time frame is still forming a higher low. So on a higher time frame, this is your logical target, because after a higher low comes a higher high. So our logical target is just up so much, like it's up 360%. Like that is a bit more than a 3x, right? So on a high time frame, up. I think all of this is just a good area to buy. That's also why I have the box there, right? I just want to buy there if we get there. On a lower time frame, I think we could possibly retrace, but we are kind of flipping this to support now. Like this Fib cluster over here that we used as resistance a few times. Support over here, support over here. That Fib cluster over here as well. We're flipping that to support now. So we can possibly, if we are already in the long, right? So I'm not going to take this. But if we get a good 3-hour close here, we could possibly look to take it like this. Put stops below the order block and just target either this band or this band. But this would be a play on the candle close. So if the candle closes like this, I would likely put my stop loss actually just below the candle. And then this is going to be TP1. This is going to be TP2. So put these here as well. That's going to be your TP. But do note that this is a trigger play. The 3-hour candle has to close with it, and it has to close above these fibs over here. It might be a bit hard to see, but we do have 2 fibs over there. We have to close above that level. And then I will consider a position. But it does look good in general. Low time frame, high time frame, I think it looks really good. Then last one, Jupe. I hate charting Jupe for the simple reason that this chart is so unbelievably not harmonic. Like, we keep front running this 886 level. I want to bid Jupe, but I want to bid it over here, and we're not getting it. Like, we keep front running the level. I think we will eventually get it. Because we have like 3 lows over here. These are 3 equal lows and a low below it. I think we eventually wick these. And if we actually wick these, our logical support level would be these fibs over here. No, I don't believe in dragons. I've drawn them out manually, and yeah, the fibs don't do anything. The fibs don't form any very confluent levels. All dragons are, to be honest, unless they have perfect ratios. Like, the ones with really good ratios work. But in general, what dragons mostly are, where's the... Yeah, this one. It's actually just... Oh, that's not how you draw that one. It's actually just one of these. Like, it is actually just a downtrend, usually. And what dragons say is if you get past a certain level, then you're long. Well, I can also just draw this square, and when we get past it, we long. So, because I have drawn the dragons manually and just look at the PRZs, I don't think they work that well. So yeah, if you break out of this area and flip it to support, I think that would look really good. But that is usually just like that is essentially just a trend flip. Like at that point, we're essentially just changing trend. So for example, this level over here, this is a pretty important level, right? So if we flip this to support, for example, which we're doing right now, that would be a really good sign. We can target higher. So this move over here, because we close so far above, is probably targeting this band over here. Or alternatively, if we lose this level again, I think we finally wick out these lows. Because because we have been building here for so long, and because none of these lows are actually tapped, like these are completely equal, right? I just assume that we're gonna wick down somewhere. Because there have to be a lot of stop loss there. Everyone that longs here is just gonna put their stops over there. There have to be a lot of stops there, so I think we wick it out at some point. So my logical target is gonna be this line over here. So this would be a reaction play, because we don't actually have a lot of data to go off of. Or actually, we can maybe just... Okay, that would put the stop pretty low. Essentially, this is just spot or reaction play. But this is what the play would look like. Because I think it's mainly just based off of us wicking this and then completing the bet. Yeah, so that those longs are essentially the same level I talked about earlier, right? That is this level right over here. Also, dragons have an extra leg. Dragons are 5-wave structures. So what you've drawn there are ABCD alternations, but they are like negative alternations, and those work a bit less than the like extensions on them. So the 0.5 to the 1 makes a lot of sense, for example, because it is a 0.5 alternation of the ABCD, so it is a 0.5 AB equals CD. That is a decent level, but in general, the actual dragons are 5-wave structures. And they are opposite to every other harmonic in a way that dragon W shapes are actually bullish. What dragons tell you is if you flip the D point on a dragon, you're gonna go higher. That is what they tell you. So dragon W shapes are bullish, dragon M shapes are bearish, which is very counterintuitive to every other harmonic. Yeah, there should be a cheat sheet somewhere in the Discord as well for the dragons. One thing to note as well is that every dragon, because for dragons you use the Cypher tool and not the XABCD tool, every dragon can turn into a Cypher. So if you have a valid dragon and it seems to react, you can just draw the Cypher on top of that, right? So I think this is gonna be a dragon. No, it's one further actually. Wow. I'm not sure if that's valid actually. I haven't looked at it like that. Scroll up a bit. Let's see. Dragon pattern. Yeah, 382 to 2.5, then 6. That is a very wide range. It makes sense as to why I don't like them. So No, that is... What's it called? I should take the higher one. So, the thing with dragons is... How dragons work is they are essentially a neckline. Dragons are neckline patterns, which is why they're so weird and which is why I don't trade them. What you look for on dragons is, you look at this. You have your X to B. This has to be between the 0.5 and the 0.32. 0.52 is within tolerance for me. Then your A to C has to be within the 0.618 and the 1272. This is your structure. And then you have a neckline. So if I take a ray from this point to this point, I'm going to make it white so it's more visible. What dragons say is because you have two valid ratios right over here. The moment you break this trend line and flip it to support, that is when you're going to go higher. So based on the dragon, this would have been the play. And you would long it either up to the B point. Well, I would take profit before that, right? You're not gonna wait for 7R to hit. So essentially what you're targeting is you're either targeting the B point right over there, or you are just making a cipher out of it, and that is going to be your final target. So you're targeting the 786 like that. That is how you play dragons. They are a lot different from the other harmonics. Dragons are actually just trendline patterns. Yeah, I can go over Mumu. That's going to be the last one then. That, I think that's a shark. That shark you have, that one's not really valid. So, I'll go on a different one to show you. Wait, I'm gonna remove the dragon first, yeah. Show this chart, I'm gonna put it on Juke. Okay, as for the shark, I'm gonna draw the exact same shark you just drew. From here to here to here to here. Why I don't think this one is valid is because if we look at your X, A, and B, there is a higher point in between your A and C. Your B on the bearish harmonic has to be on the highest point within A and C. So we take A, we take C. What is the highest point? Well, let's say this is the highest point. We go to the right. No, not the highest point. Is this the highest point? Go to the right. And we're at C. So yes, this is the highest point. So now we know we have to put our B over there. Then we do the same thing for C. We start on B, and we go towards the lowest point, okay? So we go lower, 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 lower. It stops there. Higher. That's where I see. So we know there's a lower point than our currency. We put it over there. That is where your A, B, and C have to be. Is the shark valid? Yeah, looks solid. But you have to place it a bit differently. For sharks, I take this value as an in-between, the X to B. That I only take that as an in-between for sharks. For every other pattern, I take them as exact numbers. And the reason being that sharks have a very important B to D leg. So B to D is the one I look at. So this, in my opinion, would be the start of the PRZ on the 1618. And then I start looking at X2D and we go to the 113. Just like that. So that is essentially going to be the leg you're targeting. But to target this, we still need... we still actually need confluence, right? Because just one C leg is absolutely not enough to long. This is just one fib. So we need actual confluence to be able to target this. And that confluence could be the bet we just drew, right? Because if we extend this to what we wanted our bet to be, it's going to be somewhere over here. that would still be valid. This one will still be valid, right? Sharks have a pretty wide range in which they can be valid. So let's put it at 3.14, for example. That would make our target area even better. So that, what's it called? The bat we have over here, that would be a really nice area to target. Just like that. So if I go back to our old chart, and I draw the same shark over here, and I just I'm gonna put the C leg over on our D point, okay? Just to target a POC because I think we tap that first. And that's just what we target. So essentially with the shark added, this is what we're targeting. Okay, Mumu as the last chart. Oh, Mumu has actually tapped TP2. That's really nice. Yeah, Mumu looks good. We front ran the exact level I gave, but that's why I went on my channel and I like tagged the rule, right, saying that I entered manually. So my actual entry is over here. It did hit this on chain. So if you entered on chain, this limit has hit. I think it looks really good. Like we marked the level, it tapped the level, and now it changed market structure. Because look at this. We were downtrending, right? Very downtrending. We tapped the level, and now we're uptrending. So we are now on the right side of the V. This is just going to be a buy angle. And then once we start tapping this level again, that's where we're going to start looking for other things. Do you have some thought about rate cut things? I do not look at fundamentals. I'll explain why in a bit. I'll finish this chart first. So, let's see, have we formed anything? No, not yet. So we're probably just gonna form some kind of harmonic up here. Our 2P over here is a nice 618, coincidentally, so we're just gonna... Let's say we just do something like this, right? Can't draw that yet, we don't have any points. But I think this is good. I think we go high. I already said it in my channel as well. I am not looking to sell my Mumu anytime soon. Like, these are the TPs, but I am not actually TPing on these. That's what I also said with the messages, right? Because I think this coin is just gonna go a lot higher. So I'm just gonna wait for, like, what's it called? If I just draw the TPs like this, I will likely take out partials, like over here. I would just take out my initials, and then I'm just gonna let it ride. Because I think Mumu is a really good coin, right? Like, I know it's a meme coin, but let's look at it like slightly from a fundamental perspective. Mumu is a meme people actually use. So if the market picks up, people are gonna post more Mumu memes, and the coin is gonna get more attention. Like, it's that simple. And that thesis with a chart that looks like this, I just think it's gonna go a lot higher. And the market cap's really low as well, right? So that supports it. So yeah, for the Mumu play, I still think it's good. For rate cuts, so I am of the opinion that for news, if you want to know what the news is gonna bring, you should look at the charts instead. Because whenever we have really important news, usually it will get front-ran by the actual charts. Why is that? Well, my main theory is just that it's just insider trading. If we look at, for example, Nvidia, and we just zoom in to where earnings were, the blue lines are earnings, right? This blue line. we had a rather textbook short right over there. Like we had the short over there right before earnings. So we know, hey, Nvidia's technical target is 20% lower from here. That is not going to happen without a reason. So we can take a short based on the technical analysis, but we don't know if it's actually going to go there. And then, lo and behold, we get a news escalator to actually get there. And the reason I use this example is because right after this happened, somewhere over here, the news came out that I think it was Nancy Pelosi was selling a lot of her Nvidia stock, right before earnings. So the reason why I think this works is just because of insider trading. So like, if an important news event is going to come up, the people that know about it are just going to sell their shares. Because people are just greedy like that, right? It's that simple. So when I look at rate cuts, do I have thought on the rate cuts? Well, that depends. Where are we the moment the meetings are, right? Wait, did I actually change something? No. So currently, we are approaching resistance. If we were to go into a meeting right now, I would be rather divided. If we, let's say, go above, close the daily above, I would say it's going to go up. I would actually just base it on technical analysis. That is how I do it. Yeah, it is like it seems a bit counterintuitive, but I genuinely just trade news without looking at the news. I don't even care what the news is actually gonna be. Like I go on Forex Factory and I look at like if there is news coming up, but I don't even know half of the words that are being said there. Because I don't actually like I am not an economic expert, right? I look at the charts. I know how technical analysis works, and I know that these charts are giving me a direction. So, for example, right over here, right? We had a bunch of good news escalators, right? Every time we had news, we just dumped to liquidate longer, so then it went up. We knew that was going to happen for the simple reason. Oh. For the simple reason, the technical analysis was pointing up. Yeah, see, IH. So we tapped range lows, we closed the daily above, and we tapped a butterfly. So what do? We go up. There's news. Well, the news is just going to push us up more. Until we have a reason to go short, the news is just going to push us up. We're going to get a good area to short, and then news is going to push us down. That is how I treat news. So that is essentially still what I'm looking at. Okay, but we've been streaming for like an hour and a half now, so I'm gonna call it here and just take the rest of the evening off because usually I actually just don't do anything on Saturdays. But I can't be there tomorrow, right? So I just moved the stream a bit. Yeah, I recorded it for sure. So one thing I do wanna say, if we have a topic, like if there's something you wanna learn about, just put it in chat or tag me later, or send me a message or whatever, and I would just make a stream based on that. Because I can look at the market, right? We can look at coins together. That's all good. But if there's actually something you want to learn, I will gladly put in a bit of effort and actually make a class based on that. Because I have a bunch of classes, right? I think, how's this layout? It is, yeah, it's this one. Like I have a bunch of classes. I do give classes, because I used to be a teacher IRL, right? I do give classes. So if you have a topic, just put it in chat and I'll make one. Okay. Are there any questions before I end the stream? That's from market structure, can we? Yeah, for sure. I can do that. I actually already have, because I think if you're looking for basics, I already have a class for that. So I can just link you that one as well. Because I gave a full class on a bunch of, well, fundamental things. That is this one. That is this class. Those are literally just fundamentals. So I just linked that here. Let's see. Yeah, this one is a full video on technical analysis fundamentals. So that is essentially just in-depth market structure, like very in-depth market structure, and time frame alignment. And I go over SFPs and liquidity concepts a little bit because they are really important. Okay, that is going to be it for me for today, though. So I'm going to try and get another stream going next week. If you have a topic, tag me in chat. Or if you have coins to add to my list, I'll go over them as well. Thank you everyone for coming. And I'm going to end the recording as well here, and I'm going to end the stream in a bit.